how we met story. Started on the Appalachian Trail. I started in Maine and worked southbound to Georgia through 14 states, 2,179 miles. And, I started out with a 50-pound pack, and I was 100 pounds at the time. And, I was alone, doing it by myself, going through Maine, and along the way, I stopped at this place called the White House Boat Landing, which you have to take a little side trail to get to, and you blow a foghorn across the lake, and they come and get you in a boat and take you over, and you can have lunch there, or you can stay there. They have little cabins, and so I met the proprietor there who helped me out, gave me some foam padding to help me with my pack, which was really bothering my shoulder. I was getting a pinched nerve that was making my hips go completely numb, and I had 2 bad knees, and I was just in a lot of pain. So I stayed there and had lunch, and then I was on my way. And before we met...
Yeah, she started by herself, but I had started a northbound year before last. So I did from Georgia back home here in Virginia. And then the couple I was hiking with, Prentice and Linda, turned out to be really good people, really good friends. We started again this year in May, early May, and we started back in Virginia, and we were going to go up to Katahdin in Maine. So we get to Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania, and so we decided to flip. Got in the car, drove up to northern Maine, and started south. A couple days into it, Linda had hurt. I think she probably ended up breaking her foot coming down the mountain, so they both hopped off the trail. But it was right there. I mean, the first spot that we ran into was the White House Boat Landing. So we stayed there that night, and they took Prentice and Linda to the bus station so that they could get home and recoup. And I decided, I got to at least make it back to Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania, so that I could have the trail complete. So before I did leave, though, Linda was telling me about this really cute girl from Chicago that had a pack the size of Katahdin itself on her back, and that she was about 4 days ahead of me. So I think it kind of gave me a little, incentive to walk fast, or faster than I had been. So I hopped back on the trail, and I think it was about 2 days. I ended up catching up with her, and it was quite the sight. As I pulled up, we were on this mountaintop, and I could see her. Well, I could see a person in front of me. I had no idea it was her. But as I got closer and closer and closer, I could see that she was, I think struggling would not do it justice as far as carrying that pack.
A slow moving. That's for sure.
Just a little. But it looked like a weeble wobble kind of thing, because she was going back and forth, I guess, from pain on this leg, pain on this leg, pain on this leg. So I catch up to her, and we stop and we talk for, I don't know, just maybe a minute. And then she was in so much pain, she kind of looked at me and she said, "Are you going to go?" And I went, "Okay, there's my cue."
You didn't tell him how you rolled up your shirt sleeves to show off his muscles. When he was behind me, he kind of rolled them up. I guess he told me that after.
I didn't really have
to flex and.
I should have stopped with some push-ups or something like that, but no. So I say, okay, well, I'd planned on probably going another.
You were going to go all the way to Monson, I think. You were kind of planning.
Probably, yeah. That was probably 15 miles or something like that.
Well, it was 14 the last day that we did, so it must have been 20 some.
I ended up stopping and had to rest my feet as well, and so I stayed and waited and waited and waited, and she finally shows up.
And so then we talked a little bit there, and we were kind of flirting and stuff a little bit, we already had that little vibe going. And then I filled up on water and had some lunch, and then he took off ahead of me, and uh, then later that night at the next shelter, uh, he had already made a fire and decided he was going to stay the night there because I had kind of mentioned that I was going to stay the night at the next shelter. So we were the only two at the shelter that night, and then we spent the night really getting to know each other. And then he mentioned, you tell him how you mentioned about about the hostels in the towns.
Yeah, the idea, obviously, on the trail is, you're trying to save as much money as you can, unless you've got more than you need. Um, so I threw it out there that it makes sense sometimes. Some of these hostels, unless it's like a bunkhouse situation, you could share a room to save money because the double prices are better than two single prices. So it was just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'd had no idea what her situation was, so I thought I would at least be a gentleman and at least throw all the options out so that.
And so then, I didn't want to be too forward or anything, so I was just like, you're entertaining. We should go to Monson together tomorrow and stay together while we're there.
And I wasn't quite sure how to take the entertaining part, so that one I mulled that one over all night long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, we walked there the next day together and got to know each other more.
We forgot that was the day, though. That was the day of the pack.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we wake up early because it was a 12-mile, but she was obviously in quite a bit of pain.
Yeah.
So we wake up early and we start, and probably 3 hours into it, this is when the heat wave was coming through Maine, well, actually the whole East Coast.
Whole East Coast, yeah.
And it was 95 degrees.
It was 98 degrees.
98 degrees in Maine. So this place was like a sauna because there's nothing but water and trees in Maine and rocks. So, yeah. So we get to another top of another mountaintop. Kind of, this is a good theme that's going on here. We get to the top. She has her moment.
Throw off my pack. I have like this baseball cap with a mosquito net on. I throw that off, and I'm just like, oh, I can't do it. I don't know how I'm gonna get to this town. I'm in so much pain. My knees are killing me. My left knee is the size of a softball. I mean, it's just huge. My feet are so swollen. My pinched nerve in my back is just killing me, and I'm just in so much pain. And I just didn't know how I was gonna physically just get there. And I was out of food at this point too. Mm-hmm. And so then, he.
So I'm standing here. I'm watching her because I feel her pain because I've been there, done that, and my knees were hurting too. And so at this time, my pack probably weighed 17 pounds, and hers was still the giant monster. And so I look at her, and she's still having her moment, and I just go, okay, take my pack off. I hand it to her, and I say, see if this fits. And then I pick up her pack, and I put her pack on my back, and then all of a sudden I can hear the creaking in my knees, and they're talking to me going, what are you doing? Just standing there. Not even moved anywhere yet. She puts the pack on, and it's just like 180 degree turn. She just goes, the smile comes back, the glow comes back. I'm sitting here trying to get the pack all situated to my shoulders and everything else, and I look up, she's gone. She's completely gone. She's flying down the trail. She's running basically down the trail because she's so light, and she's like has birds twerping and all these little things just going, ah, she's gone.
Alright, I don't know if it was that dramatic, but, it felt a lot better. And so he was the gentleman and carried my pack for me into Monson, where we stayed for 2 days together. And then I needed to stay a little longer because I needed to let my injuries heal or rest up a little bit anyways. And so, you know, and I didn't want to hold him back from his journey and everything. So while I wanted him to stay, I wasn't going to, you know, ask him to stay either. So, and he was ready to get back on the trail. So I dropped him off at the trail and I said, you know, hike slow. And so he was supposed to hike slow. But he didn't really hike slow.
Okay.
But you know, before I left Monson, I got a text message from him saying, if you would have asked me, I would have stayed. And so then I was like, well, you can't tell me that. You know, I texted back, you can't tell me that now, you know, now that you're gone. And I said, um, you know, I'm staying at the Northern Outdoors in Caratunk, which was the next trail town. And I said, wait there for me. I should be there in 3 to 4 days. I miss you. And so I kind of, you know, just assumed that he got it, but I didn't hear anything back. And so then, you know, I went back out on the trail and I meet this father-son couple the next night, I think. And they had told me that, you know, when they saw me, they said, are you the Rambler? Which is my trail name. And I'm like, yeah. And they said, were you hiking with 15? Which is his trail name. And they're like, was he carrying your pack for you? I'm like, what is he telling people? And, but anyways, they ended up telling me that he's already crossed the Kennebec River, which is after Caratunk, the trail town that I asked him to stay and wait for me at. So, you know, I go over at this shelter. It's right next to a lake, and so there's this big rock that's overlooking the lake, and I go and sit on the rock and kind of have my mopey moment where I'm all like, I thought he liked me, you know, I thought he was going to wait for me, and, you know, now I don't know what's he doing and everything, you know, I was all sad. And so then come to find out, he didn't get the text message right away, and not until he was past the Kennebec River and had a spot where, you know, he knew he would get service before, like one of the last times before he kind of went down into a ravine, then he turned on his cell phone, and then...
Yeah, man, that's where I got her message, the one she had said, you know, that she misses me, and, you know, I shouldn't have told her that I would end up staying, but, so I get the message, and I go, I kind of stand there for about 2 seconds. So I text her back and I say, okay, I'm 12 miles south of where we would have went to Caratunk, and I say, well, I'm turning around and I'll meet you there. So I turned around and walked 12 miles in the wrong direction. Made it back and made it to the Caratunk, to the place, and stayed there for 2 days and waited for her to catch up. And then she did, and we've been together every day since.
Yeah.
Just about every hour of every day.
Mm-hmm. We hiked the rest of the trail together, and it's been pretty amazing.
It definitely has been quite the journey.
Mm-hmm. And just everything kind of aligned, it seemed like, for us to meet one another.
Yeah, it's almost eerie how it all shook out, but I'm glad it did. Just the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our story.
That's our story. And now you can vote for our story at crateandbarrel.com. I'll have the link up on the video that you can go directly to our entry. But it's Rebecca Prendergast and Corey Goodson. And you can always do a search under the entries at crateandbarrel.com. You go to the wedding registry and gifts, and then there's a link for the $100,000 wedding reception contest, the ultimate wedding, yes. Yep. So We would love for you all to vote for our story. Thanks for listening.